Well, good evening, good evening, good evening, good evening, and good evening, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Only One Truth. Welcome to another episode of Only One Truth. Got a great broadcast lineup for you this evening. Got an absolutely amazing broadcast. We're gonna see how this thing gonna go. We're gonna see how it's gonna go. We're gonna talk about something that we typically don't talk about, but there's only one truth. You know, we are one to tell it. Before we get to that, I got to say, good evening, young lady. Good evening, Sharon. Tell everybody who you are and where you're hailing from.
Hey, this is Sharon. I'm Gaylord, and I'm hailing from Columbia, South Carolina.
Columbia, South Carolina. Rico! Good evening,
Yo,
sir. Tell
yo.
everybody who you are, where you're hailing from.
Good evening to everybody. My name is Rico Jackson, and I'm hailing from Anniston, Alabama.
Good deal, good deal. We're going to talk about something tonight, actually. And it came across my table. And a lot of times people have an issue in lines of adoption and who can and who cannot adopt certain individuals. Sometimes people have an issue with the LGBT community when they are trying to adopt a child. If it's a black child, sometimes a lot of people is up in arms or up in arms. If it's somebody outside of the black community that want to adopt the children. If it's a black child, they in their mind they say, well, a black child need to be with a black family. Well, these kids can sit in foster care forever. And one of the examples, I'm going to play this clip right here for you all, and we're going to watch the clip, and then we're going to comment on, and I want to hear from y'all heart what y'all think about this particular situation. Let me get it ready. Here we go. Go here.
We're going to start a real heartwarming story, and it's behind this photo. It shows those four brothers right there up for adoption, and they were looking for a forever family. Some friends stepped in, and the rest is history. ABC's Jesse Palmer has a story.
It's a photo that captured our hearts. Four brothers adopted by two families.
We decided to grow our family through adoption. Michael is 6. He loves to laugh and play. There's Jess, who is 5, and he has cerebral palsy.
My name is Jess.
We hear from people all the time about how beautiful Jess is and how he just lights up. And then there's Camden, who is 4. He's a typical 4-year-old.
But it's also a story of how one friendship transcended ordinary expectations.
My friend Julie called, and she was in the process of adopting 3 beautiful little boys from foster care.
And their caseworker pulled us aside and said, your boys have a baby brother, and were we interested? We knew that going from 2 to 5 children, and then one that has major special needs, that somebody was going to suffer.
Our house didn't even cross my mind initially.
If we didn't adopt him, he would be over 1,000 miles away.
I called Julie back and I said, no matter what, we would always make sure that these boys were, that they were family and that they knew they were family. They're brothers. When Elijah is with his brothers, he just lights up. Big brother, all right. He's really into staying hut right now and throwing the football.
It was kind of hectic, trying to get all 4 boys to smile, look, and especially get Elijah to hold the sign because he was just wanting to throw it. When you read the signs and you see how long they've been in foster care and that we're finally adopted, it's beautiful.
And so 1,290 days later, the story of 4 brothers and 2 families is only just beginning.
Michael's old enough that he's always going to remember that he got adopted on the same day as his brothers.
I have not given them a gift. They have given us a gift. We are not the same people that we were before.
For Good Morning America, Jesse Palmer, ABC News, New York.
Now that is let me bring Dr. Carolyn here, and we're going to fix the screen. There we go. That is what I saw, and I really struggle with why is it an issue? Should it be an issue? Should it just be a situation whereas these children needed a home, and these people were able to provide a loving, caring home for them? Sharon, what's on your heart? You muted.
I don't see where it should be an issue. I see where other people may have that be an issue. The bottom line is the children will be able to come out of foster care and will be able to go into a home that they're loved, cared for, and provided for. So as long as they are being treated good and they're getting all the love that they need and getting the education and the things that they need in life so that they can excel, I don't have a problem with that. It doesn't, race should not play a factor in that.
Okay. Dr. Cook, what do you say to that? And good evening to you, Dr. Cook. What do you say to that? Unmute yourself. There you go.
I'm okay with it to a certain degree. I do believe that we need to basically have what they have. If they can get the best, then that's fine. But my issue comes when those parents do not teach those children history. That's the biggest thing, that the biggest fault that I see. A lot of them don't know who they really are. And they grow up in this particular home. And sometimes some of them look down on their own people. They really don't know who they are in their own skin. They can see that their skin is brown, but they have been taught another way. Now, love is great. Love is great. Stability is fine as well, but you also have to know where you come from. Your being exists when you know your history. And when you know your history, you don't repeat it. And a lot of times in some families, and also in our Black families, we don't teach our children history. But I don't see a big issue with that. The only thing I do see is if they don't teach them their history.
Dr. Cook, let me ask you this question, and we're going to go to Rico as well, because I want to have his input on this too. But in what you just said, you said that in some instances, even in the Black community, in the Black households, they're not being taught their history. So if they're not being taught their history in a Black household, what is the difference if they're in a white household and if it's going to be the same situation?
Because most of them basically believe they know our history. Most of them basically believe that they're superior. So, and they know the history. A lot of them, they know some of the history. They know what they need to, what they want to know. So, a lot of us don't know our history because we haven't been taught. When you go through things and you value education, you value history, and you value not repeating that, then you're going to basically pass it along to the rest of your people. When I look at other nationalities, even in my classrooms, even the Mexican children know their history. They're in the 5th grade, 4th grade, they know their history. You have the white people, they know their history. Puerto Ricans know their history. The Arabs know their history. All of these other nationalities know their history. But when I look at our Black children, we're not being taught our history. They don't know. And the thing is, a lot of them don't care unless they can actually see it. Something happens to them, and then somebody basically start telling them, this basically happened in the past, and this just happened to you or somebody in your family. Then that opens up their eyes, but it shouldn't. Everybody needs to know their history. I'm gonna let Mr. Rico talk.
Okay. Well, thank you. Rico, talk to me, brother. Because my thing is, and I love what she's saying, but at the same time, I like to deal with both sides of the coin. Now, if in the Black community, if we're not teaching our children, and these children have an opportunity to get out of foster care and go to a Caucasian family that's going to raise them in a nice, safe, loving environment, how do you balance that? I mean, where do you draw that line, Rico?
Well, sometimes you have to make a sacrifice to actually prevent the bigger travesty. You get what I'm saying? I mean, so it would be preferable and probably more beneficial if there were a Black family that they could be around, even if that Black family wasn't teaching them some history, just for them to even be able to understand and relate to. Experience wise, you know, to get advice from, you know, you might be able to get a better understanding of what you got to deal with when you're dealing with a policeman and relate a little bit better. You know, Sandra Bullock did an interview earlier. She was married to Jesse James, I think, but she adopted some black kids and with black children, and she was saying that she had to have that conversation with her young black males, and it ticked her off that she had to have it. And, you know, I was telling my friend earlier, I said, man, you know what? It's funny. And it's sort of sarcastic that the conversation she had to have with them and feel shame about they needed to dress a certain way because they were black. They needed to carry themselves a certain way because they were black. They had to do this all because of their color. It's the same thing that white women had to say 200 years ago, but it benefited them. Just think about it. Now it ticks off to even have to say this, but in the past, those same reasons were why they justified thinking they were better. So now they got to tell them these same reasons of why you are being discriminated against and it's wrong. And so that was just funny that she had to put herself in that situation. But if I would put it to you this way, if I had to have an option of a child being unaware of their blackness, but being in a stable home compared to being in a foster home or being in an adoption agency caught up in the system and being passed around and abused and having to adapt to all these different rules, all that instability, I would sacrifice that education. I would sacrifice that relationship because that black child would probably still have an opportunity later on with a stable mind to go back and find out where he came from, compared to being in that foster home or that adoption agency where he'll never get that same history either. So you know that stability is key. Stability is always going to be the key. So that's why I say sometimes you will have to make a sacrifice and settle for some things that you don't prefer or wish to settle for to actually prevent the bigger travesty. And the biggest travesty would be his instability and his mental the trauma he may go through.
Right.
Okay. Now, Sharon, if we had to make a sacrifice and allow him to be in this white household and he was not taught his history, could we be endangering him later on in life?
Yeah, I do think that to a degree, yeah, because every child needs to know their history. Whether they're, regardless of the race, they need to know what their history is, where they come from, facts about things that, you know, that affected Black people back, you know, during the day and during other times in, you know, during their life or either before them. So, yeah, I think it's very important that we all know our history because you never know who you may encounter later in life. You know, we just had a conversation at work today about someone that, that was here in South Carolina and they met someone else that they didn't realize that, they were even family. So I think it's important that you know who your family is and where you come from and all that stuff, because you never know, these two people they got involved in, it was late, too late when they finally found out, So I think that it's very important because I always say, especially here in South Carolina, it's too small. It's truly too small. So yeah, you should know where you come from. You should know your history about things that were going on in life and things that were going on in other times before you.
That's good.
That has happened to me, Sharon. I was dating someone in my high school, and we had a family reunion, and so I was coming around the corner, and he just so happened to come up, and I'm saying, "Why are you here? Why are you here?" And so he said, "Well, what are you doing here?" I'm saying, "This is my family reunion." He said, "Mine too." So I'm saying his grandfather, yes, his grandfather was my grandmother's uncle, but we didn't know it.
Yeah.
Hey,
and you know the words I said, the words I used back in the day.
Yeah.
Can only imagine.
But see, guess what the dilemma is in that with an adopted child? sometimes they don't have an option to go back and find out where they even came from.
Records are sealed. And
then on the second end of that, just to think about it, in these children's situation, I'm thinking that the mother and the father didn't just plop down from another planet. So somewhere they got mothers and fathers themselves, and they probably got siblings and relatives, and they didn't have nobody in that family that gave 2 cents about rescuing these children. So they had to find somebody. You know what? Sometimes outsiders got to be your family. Sometimes outside, I mean, people that the people you least expect that you would have to depend on to be your family and your support system and to nurture you, have to be the ones to save you. I mean, because they didn't. I mean, just think about it. We ain't just talking about they didn't have nobody black to adopt them. They didn't have one family member that said, "Bring them kids here," and that happens a lot.
Exactly. 508-924-3521, 508-924-3521. The phone limits, the phone lines are open. Give us a call. We're talking about adoption, and should it matter if it's a black children being adopted by Caucasians, or if it's LBG want to adopt a child, long as they're being taken into a healthy, loving home. Dr. Cook, would it make a difference if it's someone in the LGBT community, my 2 dads or my 2 moms, that want to adopt this child and take them out of that foster system? Should that make a difference?
That makes a big difference. Now, I don't have an issue with Caucasians, a man and woman, but I do have an issue with 2 females and 2 males raising a child, because to me, there's no stability. And what I see now in the schools, there's a lot of issues. You have children sometimes don't want to go home because you got 2 women in the house or 2 men in the house, and they see what they're doing, but they look at the other children, they see a mother and father, and that mess with the child's mental or psyche. And the parents don't realize that. They basically feel, well, we're giving this child a loving home, but it's not stable. I'm saying it's not according to God's word. And we were created by God. That was their choice. And you're putting a child in that serious condition. And then sometimes you get into an argument. You got 2 women arguing, 2 women fighting, or even men. And some of the children see what the women are doing together, and some of them see what the men are doing together. And it's natural for a man and a woman, but children don't supposed to see that either. But to see the same sex doing that, it's just, we have so many issues today in the schools, and it's coming from the home. It's just, I'm not satisfied with that. Nothing can make me go with that.
Okay, let me say this to you, Dr. Cook, and we got a caller. We're gonna go to the call in just 1 second, and we're gonna go to Rico and Sharon. But let me ask you this question: what would you say to the people? And please understand, this is not me talking, but what would you say to the people that say that, well, where's the God when he placed them child in foster care and they was being abused? Where's the God that you're talking about then? Where's the God when his children was being abused and taken from family to family, sexually abused, mentally and physically abused? And now you have my two moms or my 2 dads that want to adopt them and take them out of that situation and put them in a more quote unquote healthy situation. What do you say to that person that say that or have that mindset?
Well, I can also say that what they're doing to the child is abuse as well. The situation that they're putting that child in, but I do understand your point. The system has to be revamped, but I do understand your point in that, but still I don't feel that it's stable enough for me for a child to be with 2 women or for a child to be with 2 men. It's just not stability for me on all levels. There's a lot of things that's going to come out of that, and I have seen it. You can come back to me, but I'll talk to you about the situation that I've been encountered with my daughters their friends, and their homes. But you can come back to me and I'll discuss that.
Absolutely. Let's go to the phone line. Shamika, good evening. How you doing, young lady?
I'm fine. How are you?
Hey, doing well, doing well. Tell me what's on your heart. I know you've been listening in for a minute. What's on your heart right now?
I was going through Facebook today, and I seen the post where Sandra Bullock was being criticized for adopting two African American children.
Mm-hmm.
And my heart goes out.
Hey, Shamika, are you talking directly into your phone? Talk directly into your phone. Make sure. Can y'all hear her good? Can y'all hear well? A little bit. Yeah, talk directly into the phone for me. It's just a little bit low, sis.
Okay, maybe because I was on speakerphone.
Okay, much better.
Can you hear me good now?
Yes, ma'am. Thank you. I appreciate that.
Okay. I was scrolling through Facebook and I seen where Sandra Bullock, I think, was at the Red Table Talk, and she was being criticized for adopting two African American kids. My heart goes out. I'm just at the point, you know, if kids are in a loving, caring environment, instead of I'm looking at things now where parents are killing kids with lovers, whatever have you. I'd rather for a child to be somewhere they're loved and cared for than with somebody that's going to abuse them, rape them, and kill them.
That's good. That's good.
I'm not saying I agree with same sex. I do know it has had its positives and its negatives. But my thing is, if you don't want your child, and foster care is not always good either, because I have heard the war stories.
Yes, Lord.
I've heard the war stories.
Absolutely.
So if you can find two good parents, and we don't know who they may be, but if you can find two people that are willing to care for this child, love this child, nurture this child, clothe, feed this child, and bring them up in something instead of something they'll be damaged. I don't care nothing about this lady adopting these two kids. Somebody needed to adopt them. Somebody needs to love them. I'm sure they're being well cared for and provided for. You know, too much is going on with children nowadays that it grieves me in my spirit. If you did not want these kids, you should not spread your legs and hair.
I can agree with you 100%.
When I had my children, it's because I wanted kids. I love my kids. It's not saying that they're the best and I'm the best. But one thing about it, two things for sure. I ain't out here killing my child or my kids. But you know, all my kids are grown except for Jenny. She's 15.
Okay.
I was out here so some of these folks went to their kids. Genesis 15. I'm still single. I'm a single parent. Her father helped. Her father is very active in her life. But I refuse to be a woman to get a man just to say you got somebody to lay up with and to pay your bill, and that man being and raping your child.
Wow.
End up killing your child. I will stay single. If that's the case.
Absolutely.
For the sake of my child.
Absolutely. Good deal. Good deal. Sharon, what's on your heart, sis? Talk to me.
I mean, I agree. Excuse me. I agree totally with pretty much everything everybody has said. I think that first and foremost, the safety of the child being loved, nurtured, and know that they're okay. And they have somebody there pretty much that has their back and know that they don't have to worry about anything. I think that that's important. As far as the LGBT, you know, I think that those situations can be confusing, but I know some LGBTs two women that have raised two wonderful children, you know, and, you know, they didn't have any problems or any complications any kind of way. And, you know, and those kids have grown up. In fact, they grew up with my children and, you know, they have excelled in ways, you know, that was what was important. You know, they're doing good things and big things in their lives. I just think that it's not always about who, it's about how, and to make sure that everything is going accordingly to God's plan, but also making sure that those children's lives are not affected about what's going on around them, and they're safe, they're secure, they're mentally and physically and emotionally, more so than anything, okay. As long as they're loved and they're getting what they need, I'm okay with that. I don't think it should matter about the color, because you have so many interracial children, in the world now too. So, the fact that someone is being adopted into that setting, but children are living in that setting all the time with their own parents. So I'm okay with it.
Okay. Rico, this is Only One Truth. We're talking about adopting and children being adopted. Now, this is only one truth, and we're gonna tell it. My two moms or my two dads. What are the pros and the cons? How could that be hurtful? Could it be harmful to that child?
It could be both. It could be neither. The thing about it is, we don't live in a perfect society. Now, those children could stay in a foster care facility or go to different foster homes, and they could go to a single woman that's raping the little boys, like this guy that I know went through with 2 different foster homes he went to. Or they could get adopted by somebody that abuse them and make child porn with them. They could stay at the facility. I seen in Yola Van Zant, this woman had 6 children, I think 5 boys and 1 girl, and one of the sons molested the other son because other people in the facility they were in molested him. Just vulnerable.
Yeah.
So the thing is, in this adoption thing, there are pretty much there are requirements and protocols put in place for you to sort of weed through people's background before you give them this access to these children like this. Sometimes some people slip through the cracks and they get in the hands of the wrong people. You would hate for a child to go to some white people that's treating these black children like slaves, manipulating them and doing some bad things. You would hate for them to go to 2 men or 2 women and they priming them and taking advantage of them. You would hate that for that to happen, but that could happen with a straight couple too.
Yeah.
So, I mean, the thing is the biggest objective, I'm gonna say the most important piece of this puzzle is that child. And once you put yourself in that child's shoes, you ask yourself, what would that child prefer? That child probably would not care if those were 2 men or 2 women, as long as they had their own bedroom and they could go to a school and wear some clothes and participate in some sports and activities and have some friends and have a PlayStation and a cell phone and a kitchen they could get up and go in and cook in or get some out the refrigerator late at night. They wouldn't care what they heard them 2 men doing. They finally sleeping in a real bed that they probably picked out. They probably wearing shoes that they wanted. And they probably motivated to do good in school because they finally going to a real school and meeting friends. They're in a stable household. So, you put yourself in the shoes of that child. From our perspective, I don't agree with the LGBT thing either. Don't get me wrong, but if I was stuck in a foster care facility waiting to get adopted amongst other children that are taking advantage of me and putting their penises in my mouth and abusing me, and then 2 gay dudes want to adopt me and they lived in a $500,000 home, and they weren't going to violate me, they were really sincerely trying to do what was best for me, I don't care what they're doing. They just saved my life. They just rescued me. So I'm going to look at it from the perspective of that child. You know what I'm saying? It could be both. It could be bad. It could be good. It could be neither. But the thing is through that weeding out process, hopefully the system works. It puts them in the proper home, whether it's 2 men or 2 women. But that child is going to tell you whatever is better for them. No, they wouldn't accept it.
Okay. Dr. Cook, is the trade-off worth it?
I was just listening to what Rico was saying and Miss Sharon was saying, and I guess I can somewhat reconsider because I listened to what they said, and some situations may be a little bit better for the child because you always got to think about what's best for the child in every situation. So I look for stability as well. And sometimes I just don't feel that that situation may be because of the situation, but looking at it from all aspects, that may be okay, just as long as they're giving them stability.
How do you deal with the mentals? Because in the beginning, you was kind of stuck on the mental aspect of it. How do you get them past that mental? Get them to a mental place of stability in that environment when they're not.
Well,
used to
that's gonna take some counseling, and some of them going to see the psychologists and psychiatrists, because sometimes that does affect people. As a lot of children don't know how to express themselves, and you really don't recognize that there's something going on until you see a change in the behavior of the child. So, and then the child may sit down with you and talk about it, but they may not want you to go home and tell the parents at home. So what you could possibly do is tell, just get some guidance from a counselor, and the counselor will further get some help for the child, which may take the psychologist. And so the school can recommend that, but they also have to go through the parents too, and basically let them know that your child needs some assistance, but we won't tell them exactly what assistance it really is. We would just let them know it's some psychological issues that need to be taken care of, and we recommend this, but we have to have your signature in order to basically assist or help your child deal with whatever they're dealing with. But never basically tell them what it actually is, because you don't want things to go wrong in the home.
Okay. That's good. That's good. Shamika, what's on your heart right now? Because what I'm hearing is we started one place talking about it could be an issue. It very well could be an issue. And then we shifted to if it's the best in the children's best interest. So where are you with this whole situation?
I'm still what's in the best interest of the child. Once again, you know my story. A lot of people on here don't. So I'm thankful that the time I was away from my kids, not that I asked to be, but an unfortunate situation happened. I'm thankful I had a mother and a stepfather as well as father that helped took care of my kids till I got back home to them. It was not easy being behind those walls, listening to a lot of those people, parents, like you say, did not want their kids. And these are grandparents now, aunts, uncles, whoever, did not want their children. It was devastating. A lot of these kids were being beat. A lot of these kids was coming up dead. So I'm at the point still. I mean, we all have our religious beliefs, and I'm not God to judge nobody. I'm not God. If somebody could take these children and raise them properly and not beat them not have to be raped, abused, mistreated, starved to death, stuck in salt ovens, everything, and some loving person of her son could take on these kids and raise them by all means. I have seen some children raised in the LGBT, whatever they want to call it, community. And I have seen some positive results to them. A lot of these kids don't grow up turning out gay. A lot of them, as was stated, has turned out very well, has gotten married, opposite sex, have done well in their life, and was just thankful they had people that took them in to love and to raise and to nurture them and give them a good life. I mean, I know the way that we were taught God designed everything, but unfortunately in these times and days, we don't always have that. Where's the family structure at nowadays? Where's the family structure? So, ain't too many men in the home nowadays.
Yeah. So,
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So, once again, I'd rather a child to be somewhere they're going to be happy and treated right than us having to hear about them coming up missing, dead, and all the gruesome details we have to hear that some of these children just are being killed.
Wow, that's true. Sharon, how much conversation should be had before the adoption process to the child? Should they have some kind of counseling even before they go into that environment to let them know that you're going into a situation where you're gonna have two moms, or you're going into a situation where you're gonna have two dads? Should there be a conversation piece? Unmute.
I feel it should be.
Okay. Unmute, Sharon. Sharon, can you hear me? Rico, talk to me, brother.
I imagine that they do have that talk. Because number one, you got to think about some of those children that's in those facilities. If they weren't adopted at birth or given away at birth, they were probably taken from a situation. And that could be numerous or many things. But whatever the reason was, it had to be bad. Maybe they were being abused and touched on. Maybe they were getting their fingernails pulled off. Maybe they were being kept in cages. Maybe they were getting burned with cigarettes. Who knows? Maybe somebody had a baby at 10 years old. So, it depends on why they are in that situation. So now here it is. They've gone through this, or maybe they had situations going on in the facility that they're dealing with, and they're going through traumatic experiences. Now they're fixing to go into a household, 2 men and 2 women or whatever. And that might be the situation that happened. You would have to have a sit down with that child to see how they respond, because you don't want to send that child to them and that child doesn't like what they're seeing. Now here it is. You got 2 perfectly good gay people, very respectful, but this child don't like gay people. So now this child up in there acting a fool and being rebellious and setting the house on fire and just, stealing and with all the other dysfunctional stuff you could think of. And that happens too. That happens too, because you do have children come out of those situations. They so traumatized and messed up that, they already go into homes and mess up other homes, good homes. Yeah, that situation too. So, really, it really depends on where that child came from and making sure that you prepare the family and the child for each other. Only way that you probably shouldn't have to worry about that, like I said, is if a child was newborn or maybe up to 2 years old or something like that. But after 6 or 7 years old, you got to let these people come together and even see how they function around each other.
That's good. That's good. We have another call. 678 area code. What's your name? Where you calling from?
Reggie from Georgia.
I'm sorry. What's your Reggie? You say Reggie?
Yeah.
Hey Reggie, what's going on, man? How you doing?
Doing good. Calling in to listen to the show.
Okay, Reggie, talk directly into the phone for me. You're just a little bit low, brother. Talk directly into the phone for me. And I need to ask you a question, man. We're talking about adoption, and if it's my 2 moms, if a child is going to a household where my 2 moms are LGBT or my 2 dads, should they be able to adopt a child? And how do you feel about that?
Yeah, they should be able to.
Tell me why.
I honestly feel like that. Because let's be real, like I was never adopted, but I have people that I consider my adopted family.
Hey Reggie, are you talking directly into your phone? Because it's very low.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you, but it's very low. Want to make sure everybody else can hear you as well. Are you talking directly?
Yeah, I'm talking into the. Yeah, can you not?
Yeah. Okay, go ahead. Okay, can y'all hear him good?
He might be on his speakerphone.
Oh, you're not on speaker, are you?
No, I'm not on speaker.
Okay, go ahead, brother.
I said I believe that it should be able to happen because yes, I've never been adopted, but I have family that I consider my extension of my family. Which being 2 other people are who I refer to as Mama Lisa and Mama Stacy. One thing I can say is the nurture and the love and the outpouring and warmth that I felt being around them was no different than being in my own home.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
So I feel like if they can care for you and love you just as much as what society considers a normal couple, then why shouldn't they be able to adopt?
Mm-hmm. That's good. That's good. Let me go back to Dr. Cook. Dr. Cook, you was gonna tell us about a situation that you knew about. Can you share that with us?
Okay. There are two situations. My daughters basically had friends. Their parents, the friends' parents. One was two women. Well, both of them were two women. Now, I'm not saying that their relationship was not stable. They basically raised a boy, which was one of the lady's actual son. So, I'm not used to that, and so I basically told my daughter, you just got to stay prayed up because that spirit is very, very strong. Now, they're still together. That those two women, and he actually liked girls, but the other relationship was a female, and my daughter was her friend. And so now the thing is, that particular young lady, she's gay. She started off liking boys, but sometimes what you see, what you learn, that's what you do. And so that relationship kind of changed between my daughter and that young lady, because she, if my daughter wasn't doing the same thing she was doing, their friendship was no longer going to, take effect. So I told my daughter, I think it's probably for the best, because you just don't know what's going on in their particular situations. But that happened with me, and so there was a lot of instability in that home because both of the women were always arguing. They were fighting. So things like that happened. But I just basically say that particular spirit is very, very strong. So that was my point on it. And then there in the school system where I work, there's some issues there too that we had to deal with. But where there's stability, I believe that's fine for the child, because it's always in the best interest of the child.
Okay. Rico, do you think one of the reasons, her having two moms and her seeing that pushed her in a direction outside of what could have been the norm, because she thought in her mind at that young age that was the norm. That's what I'm supposed to do, because look at my moms. That's what they're doing.
Well, to be
honest, that have had an impact.
That could have happened whether she was in the household or not. People are curious. Now, what could have happened was that she noticed it in the past, but didn't pay no attention to it. But then being exposed to it all the time, that exposure was influenced to say, well, you know what? Maybe that's an option for me. I've heard a lot of straight women in the past here recently say, you know what? I think I'm going to give women a shot. For me, for you to say that, you have that I've already thought about it once before. You have already had to be curious about that. But if you were curious about it, you didn't act on it. But now all of a sudden there are certain things that are enticing you to let you know that maybe this is an option. So maybe, and to be honest with you, that is one of the things that you would have to worry about, because that's human nature. You know what I'm saying? I mean, we're gonna be curious about it if we seen two dogs getting it on in the middle of the road, especially when we young. It's just something about that act in itself. But I do think in some cases that it's possible, especially from somebody that's pretty much trying to find their way or not stable themselves, trying to find themselves, and they just had a chaotic life or something like that. They might look at that as something to say, well, you know what? Even if they wasn't curious, might look and say, well, you know what? They're making it work. I wonder what is that like? I wonder what's so good. where they act like they really like it, they get along, they really act like they love each other. You know, I want to see what that's like. It happens. I'm pretty sure that has happened. You know, it can happen. But you know, the 9 times out of 10, I feel like if it's not in that person, they probably I'm gonna say 9 times out of 10, 8 times out of 10. If it's not already in them, they're probably not gonna let that persuade them or even look at that as an option. The best thing you would probably have to do is to find out from somebody that grew up in that situation to see if it influenced them. If it made. And
I wish that we had someone that was. I wish we had someone that was listening tonight that would be open to calling in and having that discussion, because I would like to know what their psyche was like. Now, Sharon, we dealt with a couple of scenarios. What if the people were just didn't satanic, didn't believe in God, and they just didn't have any religious spirituality about themselves at all? They were almost devil worshippers. Should they be good candidates to adopt a child?
By no means. I mean, God is all. God is it. And for them to want to adopt a child and want to put, to me, that's like putting hate in their heart. You know, you have to love God, and you have to do right by that child. And to say that bring all this Satanism in, and then the next thing is going to be racism and everything. So no, I don't think that people that that are into the satanic beliefs should be able to take and adopt a child.
Wow, that's good. That's good. Let me go to Shamika.
How you gonna raise them? How you gonna raise them in love if you got all that hate in your own heart?
So that's almost like what we was talking about a minute ago. The possibility of my two moms having a daughter that waver in their direction, the influence, basically.
I mean, just the child gonna be influenced by everything that, whether my two moms, my two dads, my mama and my daddy, my sister and my brother. It all depends on who they're gonna look up to and what they, what's on their mind at that time. They can be influenced by many things in life, but it's what you do as a parent is what makes a difference.
I want to ask a question though.
Wow, that's good.
I want to ask a question. With them being Satan worshipers, right? Does that guarantee that they're molesting them just as bad as Catholic priests?
That's a good question.
I mean, they might be worshiping Satan, but at the same time, they might be letting them play baseball and basketball. They might be letting them do 4-H and teaching them how to garden. They just don't. I ain't gonna even say don't believe in God, because that's atheist. But they might just be worshiping Satan, but they might not be sacrificing nobody. They might be doing their little chants and wearing their robes or whatever. But then when they go and live a regular life and let the kids date or whatever, you wouldn't know they were Satanists until somebody told you. Compared to Reverend Ike, something. I mean, because like I said, we got wolves in sheep's clothing. You know what I'm saying? Devils in disguise.
Yeah,
they're true devils that will sacrifice these children, and they actually practicing Christianity.
I have a friend of mine that's and he's atheist. He don't believe in God at all. And people ask me all the time, Raheem, how in the world are y'all friends? I mean, because he's a good guy. He just spiritually he just don't connect with God. And so we used to do some things together on what was that? I can't remember the platform was on. It wasn't MySpace, whatever came after MySpace. And we used to do some stuff together on that. And I used to always say at the beginning of the end of the book, I said, man, God bless you. He said, Raheem, go ahead with that, man. Go ahead with that. Because he just didn't believe. But like I said, he was a good guy. Dr. Cook, what do you say to that? If they're atheists, don't believe in God at all, should they be able to adopt a child? Come on. Only one truth. Let's tell it.
Well, I can't tell people who not to adopt. I can't say no, and I can't say yes, because God can always change everyone. he gives us a choice, but he can pierce that person's heart and change them. And sometimes a child might change that person. So I can't say yay and I can't say no, because God will use anyone to change a person. He has that power to do so. So that person may think that he's an atheist this moment, but maybe something in that child to change him. It's a spirit, the Spirit of God, the Holy Spirit may change, be in that child, which may change that individual. So I'm saying we have different situations and circumstances that God can, he will touch. And especially if we want to be touched. And sometimes you may be the one that he want to change. So you can basically give that testimony, that powerful testimony.
But as a whole, I understand what you're saying, and that makes perfectly good sense. But a part of you will be in opposition to them adopting a child. Am I correct in thinking that?
Spiritually, yes. Yes, spiritually.
What if they're good?
We can't make everyone spiritual. I can't make everyone be like I am. So we can't take that choice away. If a person wants to do that, it's not up to us to take that choice away. But spiritually, I'm not connected with that. But that's one thing I just can't say. I can't take that opportunity away, because anything positive can come out of a negative situation.
Exactly. I read when I'm looking at y'all and on the screen, I read, and it kind of guides me. I would not, for the life of me, go to Rico right now. There's no way I would call on Rico right now. There's no way.
Hold on, man. Hold
on. No. One more mute button. One more mute button.
You should. Go ahead, Rico.
No, sir. One more mute button. Mute. We got, as a matter of fact, we got to call a Badger. Badger, you there? Okay, talk now. Get into that phone so we can hear you, brother. What's on your heart? Yeah.
It's a very interesting conversation.
Absolutely. Appreciate it.
It's just some of the things I'm hearing is, something I've touched on before, of why a lot of people have started to steer away from Christianity. Because they get, because they believe in something different, they're condemned. So they're not worthy, and so on and so on.
Just kick in for a second, Badger, and definitely gonna let you finish your thought. But I don't think anyone said that they're condemned or less than. We didn't say that. We just said spiritually. What they were saying, I didn't say it, but spiritually they were saying that because of the fact they don't have this spirituality, that they have an issue with it. But go ahead, brother, make your point.
So, most of you guys know for a fact I will not label myself as a Christian. I refuse to do so.
Okay.
But I can speak and talk on a lot of topics. I've studied the Bible. I've studied different religions all around the world. I've studied Satanism. I've studied all kinds of things. And there is a difference between satanic and Satanism. Two different beliefs. Satanic people, the cultists, are the ones that are the really bad ones. Those have the tendency to sacrifice and all that. I'm on the Satanists, they don't believe in Satan. It's a whole other name of a being. And they're they're very karma oriented.
Okay.
So based on names alone.
Okay. Let me do this. Let me do this because we only got 5 minutes. I want to make sure that we can close down and go to a couple other people as well while I allow you to make your point. Let me ask you this: do you think that a person and I think I know your answer to this question already, but an individual that does not have a spiritual connection to God, do you think they should be able to raise a child, and do you think they could do it effectively?
If they're able to connect to that child, absolutely.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Because sometimes what the child needs is that connection.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of times through that connection that child is part of God, and that human being, the parent, is also a part of this world that is created by God. It's just something that could be.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
But also at the same time, that child could be put in a situation to go through a whole bunch of abuse to learn from it, to be a leader down the road.
Mm.
Okay. Since we're not God, we don't know creation's plan.
Mm-hmm. Okay. I could go
I
with that.
Choose the abusive household I grew up in.
Mm-hmm.
If I had a chance to say no.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Hold right there for a second. Let me. Cause we got 3 minutes. I want to touch a few more people. Rico, what's on your heart, brother?
Now I don't seen dogs raise their puppies better than I've seen some people raise their own children.
Mm-hmm.
So you asked this question about Satanists and atheists, and I say this: if I needed CPR and a Christian passed by me and didn't want to give me CPR to save my life, but a Satanist did, atheist,
mm-hmm.
somewhere he had some compassion
mm-hmm.
about my life to where he thought enough about rescuing me. Mm-hmm. I'm pretty sure a lot of Christian people, if it gets to this point to where Christians and Satanists and atheists even being an option or a point of view when it comes to adoption, think about the people that wouldn't or didn't have the compassion to rescue this child, to
mm-hmm.
give it CPR.
Yeah.
So if it takes a Satanist or atheist to save this child's life and make that child's life a better situation for the future, yep, they got the right to.
Okay. Sharon?
I mean, when you put it like that, Rico, I guess I have to agree.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Dr. Cook? I'm mute. Can't hear you.
What was the question?
Do you agree with Rico put a powerful scenario out there? Do you agree with that scenario?
I do.
Okay. So basically what I'm saying across the board, everybody is saying that atheists that don't believe in God has a right to adopt this child and bring them into their household and raise that child.
Yes,
knowing that you're not going to teach the child nothing about God or spiritual. Okay.
Like I said earlier, yes, I believe that, because you don't want to take any opportunities from anyone, because a positive situation can come out of anything negative. As I stated earlier.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Darren?
Well, yeah, I still say yeah to that. After listening to Rico, I still say yeah to that. Because you know what, some of us that believe in God and some of us Christians, we don't teach our kids about God either. They learn from the street, or either they don't learn at all. So yeah, I still agree with Rico.
Good deal. Well, it's 1 minute, so I'm gonna use that 1 minute to get Dr. Cook to pray us out, and we're gonna get out of here. Dr. Cook, will you pray us out?
Yes.
Oh Lord.
Father God, it's in the precious name of Jesus, I come to you, humble as I know how. Father God, I thank you for this day. I thank you for guiding me safely to work and guiding me home. I thank you for this broadcast. I thank you for the information that was presented and open our minds. Father God, you are in the midst of everything I do. You may be in the midst of everything that the others do. Father, I ask that anything that you have us, that you want us to do, that we do it to glorify you and only you. That you bring us close in that name, and that You able us to do your will, because it's not our will, it's your will that's important. As we gather to go home this evening, Father God, I ask that everyone go in peace, go in love, and go in you. In thy name, Father, forever. Amen.
Man. Good deal. It's been a great broadcast, y'all. Y'all did it. Good job. How to do the golf clap? The little golf clap. Yeah. It is now 7:01. I want to thank everybody for joining us, and more than that, I want to thank you for allowing DK Media Group and Associates and Only One Truth to be a part of your evening. It is now 7:01. You're about to exit the Only One Truth, but before you go, I want you to do me two favors, if you will. One, I want you to continue to pray for us, because we're certainly praying for each and every one of you. Number two, why this is really simple, I want you to go out there, find somebody, and give them a hug, because you never know. It could be the only hug that they get, or it could very well be their last. Love you, and ain't nothing you can do about it. Have a great day and a better tomorrow. And then we shine some of this light on you for Only One Truth. Take it out there into this wicked and cruel world that we live in, and let your light so shine. If you get an opportunity to give somebody some love, you just might find some love in return. Won't that be a beautiful thing? Have a great evening. Love you, and please stay blessed.